So when I was little, my dad told me that while I was riding my bike one day, the neighbor was building a wooden fence. Apparently, he did such a horrible job that the fence fell on my head as I was riding my pink bike. I remember sitting on the couch with my mother with ice cubes wrapped around in some cloth on my head. My mom was pampering me and I just saw my dad with this yellow folder full of pictures of my head. And he was screaming on how he was going to sue. All this time, I thought a literal fence fell on my head, but apparently that wasn't the true story. Apparently what really happened was that I was talking back to my dad in a way that he did not like. He got so mad that he threw the remote from across the room onto my head and my head split open. My sister told me that she just saw my head dripping with blood and both my dad and my mom ran towards me and took me to the bathroom. When they came back, I had a towel wrapped around my head and my sister sat there with anger in her eyes staring at my father like she wanted to kill him. He then threatened my sister and told her to look away, so she did. I was 12 at the time and I'm now 24 when I found out. And truth be told, I can't even ride a bike. Storytime! Okay, so when I was 14, I was a freshman in high school. At the time, I wasn't really good at school. I wouldn't finish my work. School was not for me. I had this social studies teacher, we'll call him Mr. G. So Mr. G and me got along all the time. This dude would let me get away with whatever. But he also knew that I sucked at finishing my work and turning in my assignments. I had Mr. G first and second semester, but I failed his class first semester, so I decided to try to get it together second semester so I could at least get 1 credit. The only problem was that he would give us assignments literally every single day. And me being me, I couldn't keep up. But I wasn't the only one because there were other kids in the class that were also missing a lot of assignments. So Mr. G gave us a free day to finish all those assignments. I took advantage of that day and I finished all my assignments and I even turned in one of the assignments that he had given us that day. Now, I had actually tried for that assignment, so I finished it within 10 minutes. After that, I turned it into Mr. G thinking nothing of it. All of a sudden, I see this dude get up with my paper, he crumples it up, throws it in the trash can, steps on it while it's in the trash can, pours his coffee on it, and then he spits on it. So I look at him and I was like, what'd you do that for? And then he just responds with, you were cheating. I told him that I wasn't cheating and that I can prove it to him. So he was like, okay, bet. And he gave me another paper. I ended up sitting far away from everybody so that way he couldn't think that I was cheating. I finished my assignment in 5 minutes and gave it to him, and I told him that he better pay up and give me extra credit. And he did. He told me that he was sorry, but we ended up laughing in the end because that was such an extra thing to do. Story time! But before I get into it, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for 90k and thank you to everyone who has bought my acrylics. I appreciate you guys so much. Okay, so I barely met my dad 4 years ago, so our relationship has been kind of going through it these past years. He's currently in prison right now because of his baby mama. Now that baby mama has kids with him, which are my siblings, and she's a horrible person. She put him in jail and then she had the audacity to get married with him so nobody can marry him while he's in prison. So he started talking to my mom again, and my mom and him had a thing when they were younger, so it was a nice thing to experience when they started talking again. At the moment, they're still talking, so this is when things get crazy. So I started going to my dad's mom's house, which I never did before, only my other siblings. My dad's miserable baby mama found out and she ended up coming to my grandma's house trying to act like she could rule it. But then she had the audacity to come up to me and slap me in the face. Keep in mind, I was only 12 years old at the time. After that, my mom came over and I was crying, but I was trying to keep it together because I was about to go crazy. Mainly because nobody should put their hands on me, especially my dad's baby mama. So my mom ended up finding out what happened and she ended up going crazy on her. It was scary. Now, my mom is bigger than her, so you could imagine how that went. Long story short, my mom ended up beating her up and my dad's baby mama never came back to my grandma's house again. After that situation happened, I still talk to my other siblings, but I'm pretty sure that my dad's baby mama tries to brainwash them. Mainly because my sister gets into a lot of fights with me for no reason, but I just ignore it because I'm pretty sure it's the mom. Keep in mind, my dad's miserable baby mama told my dad to deny me for 8 years. She even told him not to talk to me or ever try to find me or she would leave him. So that's why when she found out that I was going to my grandma's house, she went crazy, but I don't care because I'm a part of the family now.
Am I the asshole for giving my soon-to-be ex-husband an ultimatum in regards to custody? Look, I know the title already sounds bad, but hear me out. A little background. Me, 32 female, and my husband, 32 male, are currently separated and currently work in different cities. He's in New York and I'm in Massachusetts. We have 2 kids together, an 8-year-old boy and 5-year-old girl. Some of my family has a mild to extreme allergy to cannabis. Both of my kids are allergic, but my son's is anaphylactic severe, medically tested. My husband and his new girlfriend are staying together because she lost her job and apartment. I am pregnant. It happened pre-separation and I found out after. So what happened is that my husband has a new girlfriend, 28-year-old female, and she's a long-time stoner. He has explained our kids' allergies to her and how she can't smoke when the kids are with him. After arguing, she decided that when the kids are with him, she'll stick to edibles, so it's less likely they'll breathe it in. The only thing is, she believes that we are making up their weed allergy. She's extremely convinced that I'm anti-weed and I'm trying to convince my kids that they are allergic so that they never try it. A couple of weeks back, the kids were at his house and he was at work, so his girlfriend was watching them. She decided to play nurse with my son and let out her edibles, letting him believe it was candy. You can assume what happened. My son is fine thanks to 911. I get a call from the hospital and get my ass on the first flight I can find. I get to the hospital and immediately blow up at my husband, who is very clearly upset. After the fight, I basically tell him that unless he breaks up with his girlfriend, I'm fighting for full custody. Some friends and family are telling me I'm the asshole for threatening to take our kids away from him when the incident wasn't his direct fault. Also, the girl is telling everyone that she didn't mean to leave the edibles out and it's not her fault that my son ate them. So, am I the asshole for fighting for full custody? Am I the asshole for leaving a family gathering and insisting my mother-in-law apologize over M&Ms? My wife, 34 female, and I, 31 female, have 2 wonderful children together, 4-year-old twins. They were conceived with my wife's eggs and a known sperm donor, and I carried/birthed them. Both kids ended up being practical clones of my wife, so it's pretty clear to everyone who contributed to the genetic material. My in-laws had everyone together at their house earlier this month. My kids were outside playing with their cousins, and my sister-in-law and mother-in-law and I were chatting in the kitchen. At one point, my 2 run inside from playing and ask if they could have some M&Ms that they see on the counter. I tell them, no, we'll be eating in 15 minutes, you can have them after dinner. A little bit later, my sister-in-law and I get the call that food is ready, so we go outside and I see my kids each have a little cup full of M&Ms that they are eating. I told my kids that they knew they were not supposed to be eating those and took away the cups. My mother-in-law comes over and says that she gave them the M&Ms and that they can have them. To which I replied, no, they can't. It's dinner time. You were there when I told them no. Mother-in-law says again that they can have some chocolate, it's fine, and tries to take the cups out of my hands. We go back and forth, prompting my wife to start walking over to us just in time to hear her mother say in front of our kids, I'm saying it's okay. They aren't even your kids. They're my daughters. Just give them the chocolate. My wife had her mom repeat herself and said something like, absolutely not, we are leaving. I put the M&Ms on the nearest table, grabbed both kids, who were now softly crying, and started to pack our stuff. The whole event erupted into chaos. Father-in-law screaming about the disrespect of us leaving, grandmother crying, brother-in-law and his wife arguing with their father-in-law, mother-in-law crying that her only daughter is abandoning her. It's a mess. After a couple hours at home, the kids seemed okay, but mother-in-law saying I'm not their mom really scared them. My wife spent about 4 hours on rotating phone calls with all of her family, from father-in-law screaming at her, mother-in-law crying over how we took her grandkids away over M&Ms and made her out to be the bad grandma, brother-in-law trying to get in the drama, grandmother depressed saying she would die without seeing her great-grandkids again. My wife's message to all of them was that mother-in-law needed to apologize to me and to our children for what she said. We made it clear that we would have no problem spending time with grandma and brother-in-law's family, but we would not bring the kids around my mother-in-law until she apologized. As you can guess, the apology hasn't happened, but the phone calls of guilt trips, yelling and crying have not let up. I feel an apology is not even a big deal, and at this point, mother-in-law is making the choice not to see her grandkids. I want to hold firm, but I know how hard this all is on my wife, even if I really don't think it's my fault. Am I the asshole for insisting for an apology? Would I be the asshole if I called off my wedding because my fiancé doesn't want my son to bring his boyfriend to the wedding? My son was born when I was only 15 years old, and I've been a single dad since I was 18. It was hard living for a long time money-wise, but I always tried to do my best by my son. Today, I own my own gym, and my son is now 22 and going to college and works at my gym full-time. He came out to me when he was 14 years old, and I've always been supportive of him and his identity. I've been with my fiancé for about 2 years, and while she does come from a very deep religious and conservative family, she has never had any issue with my son. At least nothing she has ever expressed to me. My son has been dating his boyfriend since he was 18, and I've gotten to know him very well. However, my fiancé told me recently that she does not want my son's boyfriend to come to the wedding, nor does she want her parents to even get a hint that my son is gay. That if they found out, they would have a complete fit. This really bothered me because I refused to ask my son to go back in the closet. What is going to happen in the future? What's going to happen when my son gets married himself? Will they want him and his husband barred from other family events? He's my son and will be the best man, and it will be unfair to deny him a +1 because her family has an issue with gay people. When I told her this, she got very angry and told me that I was being selfish and overdramatic, that it would just be for this one day and she wants a perfect wedding. I told her that this was unacceptable and that I was not going to ask my son not to bring his boyfriend. It's my wedding too, and I want his boyfriend there. After that, I got the silent treatment for a day, and since then, it hasn't been discussed again. However, it has left an extremely bad taste in my mouth and has been contemplating calling the wedding off. I do not want to marry into a family that would potentially discriminate against my son. I love my fiancé very much, but my son will always come first. I told my brother, and he said that I was being the asshole here, that it would just be for one day, and that since my son is an adult, it's unlikely that he would have that much interaction with his step-grandparents in the future anyway. I still don't feel comfortable about the entire situation, and I'm really thinking about calling this wedding off. Would I be the asshole if I did here? Am I the asshole for not wanting to have kids? When I was 24, I had a baby with Liz. We trucked along for 5 years and then we got divorced. The kid, Jane, was very upset by the whole thing. I never really wanted kids, and Jane was a mistake. I realized after we had her exactly how child-free I wanted to be. At first, we basically had 50-50 custody while we got it formally figured out. We just worked around our schedules, and while we both worked, she spent time with her grandparents. The problem arose when I realized I was dreading having her over. A lot of the time, we did 10 days each, and I had the time of my life on my 10 days off, and I hated having her with me. She was fine before, but now was showing some really shitty behavior to me specifically. Nothing major, but she was really well behaved before. The divorce was finally about to go through and our legal obligations toward Jane's decided. I told my lawyer that I wanted no custody, full stop, but would pay full and maximum child support instead. My ex Liz and my parents were not happy about this, but I told them I was moving across the country to a city and this was the only way. It's now 10 years later and I'm exceptionally happy and I'm now married again and my wife doesn't want kids either. My daughter Jane is 14 though and has been contacting me through Facebook and my parents. I haven't been in contact with them much because they chose to keep having a relationship with Jane despite me not wanting us to be involved. My wife therefore found out somehow and now she's mad at me. Jane wants to have a relationship with me, but I do not want kids and have made that so clear. I called my ex-wife out on Facebook for allowing my daughter to contact me and for turning my parents against me, but now other family members keep messaging me and telling me to F off. Am I the asshole for deciding I don't want to have kids? Am I the asshole for telling my husband he wasn't the one who experienced difficult pregnancy and birth? Me and my husband had our first baby together 3 months ago. We're overjoyed, but like any new parents, we're struggling. My husband recently started posting about how exhausted he is, how having a newborn is exhausting and draining. He posts about everything he does, talks about the fun and calm times he sacrifices, sleepless nights, but he goes to bed at 10 and wakes up at 9. He tells his friends about how demanding it is to be a new parent, completely acting like he's a single dad or something, which is strange because everyone around us noticed how he was acting. He does little compared to me. I do most of the hard work from feeding, changing diapers, bathing, while he does simple occasional things like going to the store, cleaning the bathtub, or changing the sheets. I was berated by my own parents after seeing his posts. Yesterday, I talked to him about what he's been doing and how he was exaggerating with his posts about his contribution in both our son's care and house chores. I told him he's out there on social media complaining all the time so much that everyone thinks I'm sleeping 24 hours a day and doing absolutely nothing. He argued that he wasn't lying. I said, well, he wasn't the one who went through the difficult birth experience, that I was struggling for 9 months of intense symptoms and my birth was extremely difficult. I've never experienced